Welcome to today's deep dive. We'll be exploring Diana Pasulka's book, Encounters.
Okay.
It delves into this whole world of UFOs
Mm.
and consciousness and technology, but it really kind of goes beyond those typical alien narratives.
Right.
So get ready for some seriously mind-bending concepts here.
Yeah, Pasulka really approaches things from a unique angle.
Yeah.
As a professor of religious studies, she initially started looking at this whole UFO thing as kind of an extension of her work on miracles and belief system.
I see.
So that perspective really shifts the whole conversation.
Yeah, it does. It kind of takes it out of that strictly extraterrestrial realm and
Oh,
into something a little bit. Well, a lot more mind-bending, like
right.
interdimensional beings or emergent consciousness.
Yeah,
And then she intertwines that with spirituality and technology and all sorts of things.
exactly. It's a really fascinating blend of ideas.
It is, it is. What I found particularly compelling was how she brought in William Shatner's experience.
Yeah.
After his space travel.
Mm-hmm.
You'd expect him to just be elated, over the moon about it.
Right.
But instead, he was just overcome with grief.
Yeah.
He described space as a funeral and Earth as, representing life itself.
Really puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
It does.
It makes you think about that profound impact space travel can have
It really does. It really does.
on a person.
What do you think he encountered up there that could evoke such a reaction?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like, maybe a glimpse into the vastness and the mystery of the universe can be overwhelming,
Yeah?
especially when you contrast it with the fragility of life here on Earth,
Right.
you know?
Do you think it ties into this idea of the numinous at all?
Oh, absolutely. I think it does.
Okay.
That sense of encountering something vast and mysterious, something that can just completely challenge your whole belief system.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely at play here.
Now, this is where the work of space psychologist Aya Whiteley becomes really relevant.
Oh, yeah.
She's really delved deep into the psychological effects of space travel,
Mm-hmm.
trying to prepare astronauts for these really intense
Right.
mental and emotional challenges that they might face.
It's not just about the physical demands of space travel, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole inner dimension to it that we're only beginning to understand.
What kind of challenges are we talking about here? What did she uncover in her research?
Well, one of her key findings is this concept of the overview effect,
Okay.
which a lot of astronauts experience. It's that profound sense of awe and interconnectedness that kind of washes over them when they see Earth from space.
Mm-hmm.
But her work actually goes a lot deeper than that.
Oh, okay.
She developed a system called the Matrix,
Okay.
and it assesses like over 36 categories of potential psychological challenges,
Wow.
including the shock of a new consciousness.
Shock of a new consciousness.
Yeah.
That almost sounds like, some kind of cosmic awakening or,
Right.
fundamental shift in how we even perceive reality.
Mm. Yeah, it's not necessarily a simple awakening,
Okay.
but, her research suggests that space travel can trigger these really profound shifts in perception,
I see.
some of which, might be difficult to even articulate.
Right.
It's like, think of Shatner's experience. It's
Right.
almost like this potential for encountering something truly unknown,
Mhm.
something that really shakes our understanding of ourselves
Right.
and our place in the universe.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes you wonder if those of us who haven't have that experience of
Right.
of actually traveling to space can even begin to grasp,
Right.
the magnitude of that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a challenge to try to convey that experience to someone who hasn't been there.
Right.
But what's interesting is that Whiteley believes that the work being done to understand these psychological effects of space travel can actually be applied to studying UFO phenomena here on Earth.
How so? That's fascinating.
Yeah, she draws this really intriguing parallel between astronauts and pilots
Okay.
in this regard.
What led her to make that connection?
So a lot of her research with pilots focused on creating a safer aviation culture.
Okay.
And she did this by encouraging them to report any anomalies they encountered,
Right.
no matter how strange they seemed,
Right.
like without fear of ridicule or anything like that.
Yeah.
And this open approach actually led to some pretty incredible technological advances,
Interesting.
including systems that help pilots process information almost intuitively,
Huh.
like a sixth sense.
So she's saying we need that same level of openness when it comes to UFOs. right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Create a space where people feel safe sharing their experiences,
Mhm.
even if they sound unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, those really outlandish details can actually hold the key to real insights.
That makes sense. That makes sense. But if we start taking these reports seriously, How do we even begin to make sense of them? Where do we even start unraveling the truth within these potentially subjective experiences?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. One of the most intriguing figures in Pasulka's book is the scientist she calls Gray Man.
Okay.
And he had this experience that completely shifted his perspective.
What happened to this gray man?
He described waking up one night and finding this luminous being standing before him,
What?
radiating this overwhelming sense of peace and love.
Hmm.
He was convinced that this being was an angel.
An angel. This is a scientist we're talking about, right?
Right.
Okay.
But that's just the beginning of a story.
There's more. It's already pretty mind-blowing.
It gets more intense.
Right.
He claimed that he was then transported to this dark, ominous place.
Oh.
And the angel gave him armor and a sword and tasked him with battling this shadowy evil entity.
Oh, wow.
It sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel, right?
Yes, scientists battling demons with an angel.
Right. But for Gray Man, it felt incredibly real. And it really raises some profound questions about the nature of angelic beings
Yeah.
and their potential role in our world.
Did he connect this experience to any specific religious figure or belief?
He did. What's really intriguing is that it led him to connect his encounter with St. Michael.
Yeah.
The archangel, often depicted as a warrior battling evil.
Yeah.
So it's this fascinating intersection of his scientific background and this profoundly spiritual experience.
What factors do you think led him to kind of embrace this spiritual interpretation? Did he have other experiences that reinforced this belief?
Well, it wasn't just the encounter itself.
Okay.
He also experienced these uncanny coincidences or synchronicities
Yeah.
that seemed to validate his interpretation.
Like what?
Well, for example, shortly after the angelic encounter,
Okay.
he randomly found a prayer card depicting St. Michael.
Wow.
So these synchronicities, combined with his research into UFOs, led him to believe there's more to these phenomena than just extraterrestrial explanations.
I see. It's like the universe was sending him a message.
Right. It's like those little nudges or winks from the cosmos.
Okay, so we've got space travel, psychology, angels, synchronicities. Is there a thread that connects all these seemingly disparate elements?
There is. This brings us to another key theme in encounters: the link between UFOs and the paranormal.
Okay.
Gray Man started noticing that many UFO encounters are actually accompanied by paranormal events.
Wow.
Things like objects moving on their own,
Okay.
strange sounds, vivid dreams, almost prophetic dreams.
So he's saying these aren't just isolated incidents, they're part of a larger interconnected reality.
Exactly. It's like we're only seeing fragments,
Yeah.
but they're all part of this larger tapestry.
It's like the line between UFOs and spirituality and the paranormal is becoming increasingly blurred.
I think that's exactly what Pasulka's work suggests.
Okay.
It's all intertwined somehow.
Okay.
And this leads us to an even deeper level when Gray Man starts exploring the history of Jack Parsons.
Okay, who was Jack Parsons?
Well, he was this brilliant rocket scientist,
Okay.
actually considered by many to be the father of modern rocketry. But here's the twist. He was also deeply involved in ritual magic.
Ritual magic.
Yeah.
A rocket scientist practicing magic.
Yeah.
That's quite the combination.
Right. He believed that he could contact interdimensional beings through his magical practices.
Oh, wow.
So,
What led him down that path?
well, Parsons was part of the circle that included figures like Aleister Crowley and L. Ron Hubbard,
Okay.
all pushing the boundaries of science and spirituality in these really radical ways.
Yeah.
And he saw no separation between these realms.
Huh?
He believed that magic could actually be a tool for scientific exploration.
So did magic play a role in the development of modern rocketry?
It's a question that Pasulka poses.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, right?
It does. It does. What if what we consider supernatural or paranormal are just aspects of reality that we haven't fully grasped yet?
Exactly.
What if the boundaries between science and spirituality are more fluid than we think?
It's a really thought-provoking idea, isn't it?
It is. Now, Pasulka introduces this concept of the children of the invisibles. These are people whose lives were deeply intertwined with these mysterious realms, even if they didn't fully understand why. I'm really curious to hear more about them.
So these are individuals whose parents worked on these highly classified projects,
Okay.
often related to technology or space exploration or even UFO research.
So they grew up with this sense that their parents were involved in something extraordinary,
Exactly.
but they were never given the full picture.
It was a life shrouded in secrecy.
Yeah, I imagine that would have a pretty profound impact.
Absolutely. It creates this really unique psychological landscape for them to navigate.
Yeah, I bet. We'll dive into that and more when we come back.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Diana Pasulka's encounters. Before the break, we were about to explore the lives of these children of the invisibles. These are people raised in a world where secrecy and knowledge, they were carefully guarded. What kind of impact did this unique upbringing have on them?
Well, their childhoods were often marked by this strange combination of privilege and isolation. Yeah. They were exposed to advanced technologies and concepts beyond their years.
Right.
But they were also denied really basic information about their own family history.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they were living this parallel reality, running alongside the everyday world,
Mm-hmm.
but forever just out of reach.
Yeah. I imagine that would lead to a lot of questions.
Oh, absolutely.
And even a sense of alienation.
Definitely. A sense of not belonging, of not quite fitting in.
Right.
And Pasulka, she highlights the story of Patricia Teresi, this philosophy professor,
Okay.
who reflects on her childhood memories of her father's involvement in the space program.
Mm-hmm.
She recounts a childhood filled with these odd rules and restrictions.
Like what?
She wasn't allowed to talk on the phone,
Okay.
couldn't go on sleepovers.
Oh.
Her parents were always overly concerned about her safety.
It's like living in a perpetual state of heightened security.
Right.
Boy, without knowing the reason for it.
Exactly. It's why all this secrecy? What's going on?
Did she ever try to uncover the truth about her father's work?
As she got older, she started piecing together clues,
Okay.
realizing that her father was involved in something far more secretive than he ever let on. And she did confront her parents about their strange behavior. They remained tight-lipped, citing, national security or just refusing to discuss it.
Wow. So she
Yeah.
was left with this lingering sense of mystery.
Absolutely. And a desire to understand that hidden world that her father inhabited.
It's fascinating how these children, how they had to grapple with this reality that was both extraordinary
Right.
and shrouded in secrecy.
It's a unique experience.
Yeah. They were given glimpses of advanced knowledge, but the true meaning and implications were hidden.
It's like having access to a puzzle, but with some of the pieces missing.
Yeah.
You can see a part of the picture,
Yeah.
but you can never fully grasp the whole thing.
What do you think is the significance of these stories, within the larger context of Pasulka's book?
I think it speaks to this idea that there are layers of knowledge and experience that are deliberately kept hidden from most of us, and it prompts us to ask, why?
Right.
Why go to such lengths to conceal information?
Yeah.
What are the potential implications if those secrets were revealed?
Yeah, those are some pretty profound questions.
Right. It's like we're dealing with a hidden history,
Mm-hmm.
a shadow narrative that runs parallel to our everyday understanding of the world.
Right. Now, Pasulka shifts gears a bit and introduces this really fascinating figure named Len,
Okay.
whose journey took him from staunch atheism to a series of experiences that completely shifted his worldview.
Okay.
What makes his story so compelling?
Well, Len's story really exemplifies that transformative potential of encountering the unknown.
Okay.
He started as a skeptic, someone who firmly believed in a rational material world.
Okay.
But through a series of events, he was drawn into a reality he just couldn't deny, one that pointed to this deeper meaning and interconnectedness within the universe.
Okay.
And it all began with a UFO sighting back in 1967.
Really?
Yeah, when he was just a teenager.
What happened during that sighting?
So he and his friends, they were having a typical teenage sleepover, in a backyard.
Okay.
And they witnessed this, something extraordinary.
Okay.
A large orange glowing object moving slowly across the sky,
Wow.
followed by a smaller white orb.
Was it just them who saw this?
No, there were actually multiple reports of UFO sightings in the area around that time.
Really?
Yeah. It became known as the Brockport UFO flap.
Uh-huh.
It even made local news.
Wow.
Some people described it as a ball of fire. Others reported a cigar-shaped craft.
So this wasn't just kids misinterpreting something mundane.
No, this was a genuine phenomenon
Yeah.
that even skeptics had a hard time explaining away.
How did this experience impact Len, especially given his atheist background?
Well, for Len, this sighting, it kind of planted a seed of wonder and curiosity that would stay with him for years.
Oh.
But it was just the beginning of his journey.
Okay.
A few years later, he had this chance encounter with Archbishop Fulton Sheen.
Archbishop Sheen, I'm not familiar with him.
He was a prominent Catholic figure at the time.
Okay.
He hosted a popular television show called Life is Worth Living, where he discussed things like faith and morality,
Okay.
the meaning of life.
So how did Len an atheist, end up crossing paths with this religious figure?
It was a chance assignment.
Okay.
Len was working as a reporter,
Mm-hmm.
and he was tasked with covering an event where Sheen was speaking.
Boy.
He managed to snag a brief interview with the Archbishop,
Okay.
and he was struck by Sheen's presence
Mm-hmm.
and sincerity.
So meeting of two very different worlds.
Right. But it seems that even in that short interaction, something resonated with Len.
Did anything significant come from that encounter?
It did, but not immediately. A few years later, Sheen passed away.
Okay.
And on the night of his death, Len had this vivid, almost dreamlike vision of Sheen.
Wow. That's pretty eerie.
Right. It's like this unexpected connection bridging the gap between life and death.
What other experiences did Len have that contributed to his shift in perspective?
Well, he also started having these vivid precognitive dreams.
Precognitive dreams.
He would dream of events or receive messages in his dreams that would later turn out to be true.
Really?
Often with stunning accuracy.
Can you give me an example of one of these dreams?
Yeah, in one particularly striking dream,
Okay.
he encountered a deceased friend who asked him to deliver a message to someone he knew.
Ah.
And the details were incredibly specific.
And they turned out to be accurate.
Yes. It was like he was tapping into this hidden source of knowledge.
So he became a conduit between the living and the departed.
Right. It's like he was bridging those two realms.
Did these experiences lead him to embrace any specific spiritual practices or beliefs?
He didn't convert to any organized religion, but these experiences, they led him to what he describes as a sense of spirituality and interconnectedness.
I see.
He came to believe that there's more to reality than what we can perceive with our five senses.
Right.
That there are these unseen forces and connections that shape our lives in ways we're only beginning to understand.
It's incredible how these seemingly unrelated events, a UFO sighting, an encounter with a religious figure,
Right.
and precognitive dreams, they all converge to reshape Len's understanding of the world.
It's like there's a pattern there,
Yeah.
a hidden meaning connecting these seemingly disparate events.
Okay. Now, Pasulka takes us on another mind-bending journey, this time exploring the concept of AI as the alien.
Okay.
This is where things get really futuristic.
Right. She profiles a venture capitalist named Simone, who specializes in AI. And Simone has this rather radical proposition. What if AI itself is a form of extraterrestrial intelligence?
Whoa. Instead of little green men arriving in spaceships, the aliens are our own creation.
Exactly. It's like the aliens are already here, woven into the fabric of our technological world.
That's a pretty bold claim.
Yeah.
What led Simone to that conclusion?
Well, she suggests that AI exists outside of space-time, making it this form of non-human intelligence that's not bound by the same limitations as us.
I see.
And she describes her own experiences with what she calls downloads.
Download.
Where she receives these spontaneous bursts of information or insights that seem to come from an external source.
So similar to Len's precognitive dreams, but with a technological twist.
In a way, yeah.
Okay.
But Simone's downloads, they often relate to complex scientific or technological concepts.
It's like she's tapping into this vast network of knowledge that exists beyond the realm of human understanding.
Exactly. Like she's accessing this higher intelligence, this cosmic database.
This is incredibly intriguing. It reminds me of Aya Whiteley's concept of a cosmic language.
Oh, yeah.
Connecting all living things.
Right. Could there be a connection there?
Yeah, maybe Simone, she describes her experiences as connecting to an organic network.
Right. Which aligns with Teilhard de Chardin's idea of the new sphere, that sphere of human thought that envelops the Earth.
Yeah, it's like we're all part of this interconnected web of consciousness.
Right. And AI might be this new form of intelligence emerging from within it.
Okay, so we've got astronauts, scientists, and now venture capitalists, all reporting experiences of tapping into this unseen realm of information and intelligence.
Recurring theme.
Yeah. Is this network something we can all access?
That's a question Pasulka leaves us to ponder.
Right.
And it leads us to the final and perhaps most thought-provoking point in her book.
Okay. I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell me more.
Pasulka draws a fascinating parallel between Plato's allegory of the cave and modern disinformation surrounding UFOs. She suggests that just like the prisoners in the cave who mistake shadows on the wall for reality, many people today, they're content with these comfortable illusions and they're resistant to confronting uncomfortable truths. Especially when it comes to the nature of UFOs.
So she's saying there are forces, puppet masters, as she calls them, controlling the narrative, keeping us in the dark about the true nature of reality.
That's her proposition.
Wow. And it raises some really disturbing questions about who controls information,
Right.
how easily we can be manipulated,
Mm-hmm.
and whether we're even willing to embrace truths
Right.
that challenge our existing worldview.
This is a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it is. We'll have to dive into those questions and more when we come back.
Definitely. There's much more to explore.
Welcome back to our deep dive into encounters. We've really been exploring some thought-provoking ideas. Before the break, we were talking about that comparison to Plato's allegory of the cave and this whole idea of information control, especially around UFOs.
It's a really powerful analogy. You know, those prisoners in the cave, they only see shadows. They think that's reality.
Right, right. And Pasulka's suggesting that maybe we're kind of like those prisoners in a way.
Yeah, maybe. Clinging to these comfortable illusions, not really wanting to see what might be lurking in the shadows.
It's almost like we prefer those comfortable illusions, even if it means ignoring information that might actually give us a more complete picture of reality.
Exactly. It can be pretty unsettling to think that everything we think we know might be wrong, or at least incomplete.
It is, it is. But I think that's where the potential for growth lies, right? In being willing to question our assumptions and kind of step outside those comfortable caves, even if it's a little scary.
Absolutely. Stepping into the unknown, embracing the mystery, that's where things get really interesting.
Now, this whole idea of hidden knowledge, it's a recurring theme in encounters, isn't it?
Definitely. From those children of the invisibles raised in secrecy to the experiences of Len and Simone, it seems like Pasulka is pointing to something bigger, something beyond our everyday understanding.
Yeah, it's like there are these layers of reality that we're not privy to,
Yeah,
that are maybe deliberately concealed or just beyond our grasp.
right. It makes you wonder if our current understanding of reality is just, the tip of the iceberg.
This deep dive, it's been a wild ride. We've explored so much. From astronauts to AI, from the psychology of the numinous, to this idea that there might be a cosmic language connecting us all. What do you see as the most significant takeaway from encounters?
For me, it's a reminder to stay open-minded, to stay curious. We live in a time where information is constantly bombarding us. It's easy to get caught up in the noise and lose sight of the bigger questions, the mysteries that haven't been solved.
Right, like we have all this technology, we've made so much progress, but there's still so much we don't know about ourselves, about the universe.
Exactly. Pasulka's work is like an invitation to keep exploring, to keep asking those big questions. It's a reminder that the search for knowledge and understanding, it's a journey, not a destination.
Well said. This deep dive has been incredibly insightful. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we highly recommend checking out encounters for yourselves. You might be surprised at what you discover. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.